All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Transitional Champion podcast. I, of course, am Dirt, and along with me is the Nard Dog himself, Nasty Nate Kennedy. Say hello to everybody, Nasty.
Hello, Nard Dog. That's isn't there like a Genesis game that is something to do with?
Actually, that's a reference from The Office, as far as I know. But
Yeah, I think there's a Genesis game as well where you're like throwing hot dogs at like sea creatures and your skateboards. I don't know.
It's called the Nard Dog.
I would have to look it up. I can't think of it off the top of my head. There's a YouTube channel called Game Sack that always like makes that joke about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, just a quick note for everybody. This is our first episode. We are planning to chronicle the Road to WrestleMania. So Royal Rumble through WrestleMania, Raws and Smackdowns, pay-per-views, any other news, whatever we may throw in there just in case, because stuff happens, maybe we want to talk about it. I am, of course, best known from being on That New Toy Smell years ago. I was also on Wrestling Radio, which was originally Wrestle Guide Radio for WrestleGuide.com, which was part of the Figures.com family back in the day. Also did the It Figures podcast, the Weekend is Dead podcast, the Comic Book Chronicles I'm still on now. I was on Comic Book Nation, just a bunch of random stuff through the years all over YouTube and various websites. But a lot of people didn't know this. For a long time, I was the guy behind the scenes for Fans of Power. I was on some of the early episodes, and then I kind of disappeared because I realized I didn't have as much to talk about with Masters of the Universe as the other guys. So for a long time, I was there just sitting in the background running the show, which is a job that Nathan actually took from me.
Yeah. So, I stole it from you.
So yeah, thank you for that, by the way. So now you're Fans of Power, and then you also do Beyond Retro, and you do capes and commentaries.
Yeah, it's exhausting. Just hearing you talk about all those shows that you're on, I was like, man, I'm only doing the 3. I can't imagine how that was. At the
yeah, I mean, I all I do now pretty much regularly is Comic Book Chronicles. I had to get rid of pretty much everything else. And we do have someone who jumped in the chat room. Febmon is in there.
Yeah, Febmon. Febmon is a mainstay between everything. I could do a Beyond Retro Arcade video game stream at 5:30 in the morning. Febmon's the first one there. So welcome, Febmon.
That's awesome. All right, so we are here, though, to talk about the Rumble, talk about Raw, talk about SmackDown. We're going to try to keep the episodes about an hour. We don't want to go on and on forever. We know some people do 6-hour podcasts. And, I don't even want to do one, let alone listen to one.
I mean, it's hard enough to watch the 3-hour Raws and the 2-hour SmackDowns.
Although I just realized I'm missing my gimmick right now. I got to put on my visor here.
I'm getting some Naomi vibes.
We got Macho Man and Rock here. He's in for some wrestling talk.
All right.
And Febmon always wants to mention the lovely Emily. So you may have to watch out. He may be a cyber stalker.
She's already on her way to work. I'm getting a bit of an echo here in my headset. I don't know if you're getting anything over there. It kind of comes and goes.
Echo of you or echo of me?
I'm just hearing it in my headset.
I don't know. Maybe I have my headset up too loud. I may be so old the headset's loud enough that the microphone's picking it up.
Yeah, it could be.
All right,
man, the Rumble.
So the Rumble. Okay, so here's the thing with the Rumble. The Rumble usually the pay-per-views, I'm in the central time zone, so they usually start at 7 and end at 10. So I figure I'll get over to my buddy's house around 6 so I can watch some of the pre-show before we get into the Rumble. We can order some dinner and whatever, hang out. I get there at 6, and he's like, "Oh, you've already missed 2 matches." I'm like, "It's 5 after. How did I miss 2? Because the pre-show started at 5 instead of 6, and the show actually went off the air after 11 o'clock. So it was to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 to it was over 6 hours long."
Yeah. They do that with I guess they don't really have their big 4 anymore, but I know that SummerSlam, Survivor Series not so much, but SummerSlam, WrestleMania, and especially the Rumble, it's like these. We're going to have access. It's going to be a whole weekend. Here's a pre-show with 3 matches on it. Here's a 5-hour long card, and it's like, man, it's just.
I'm prepared for it with WrestleMania, but these other shows didn't used to be that way. And just to lay a little foundation here for everybody, I have not watched a full episode of Raw or SmackDown or a full pay-per-view in probably since WrestleMania was probably the last full pay-per-view I watched. And I have not watched a full Raw and SmackDown in like 2 years.
Yeah, no, same boat. I typically tune into the network to just sort of skim through the pay-per-views. So I don't have cable anymore either. So if I'm going to catch Raw or SmackDown, I'm either finding another means or I'm watching the condensed versions that they put on Hulu, which is honestly probably for the best.
Yeah, well,
especially with Raw.
Because I did it. I've lost some sleep the last couple of days watching. I watched all 5 hours of Raw and SmackDown.
Condolences, sir.
Yeah,
I only watched snippets and just kind of read the results of these. So,
Who Dat Whale is also in the chat room.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, Who Dat Whale's also another another go-to. You can bet when we're streaming. Fedmon and Who Dat Whale. They're like the tag team of.
But is Who Dat Whale also an Emily stalker?
No.
All right, so FedMom wants to know why they haven't done a 24-hour pay-per-view special, and don't give them the idea.
Yeah, no,
it might happen.
No, yeah, you could. I mean, you could see Vince I think if he could line up the sponsors in the right way.
If he could get like 3 hours sponsored by Snickers, and then 3 hours for Rocket Mortgage, and 3 hours,
KFC. Don't forget KFC.
Actually, he'd probably do it starting in Australia, and then India, and then China, and then. And just move it around the globe as it goes.
I'll tell you this: they are wanting to do, like, as you've seen with NXT UK, they are wanting to have different brands across the world. Now, if they manage to get all of that done at some point, then that wouldn't be a bad idea. If you switch from country to country as the day goes on, that would be a novelty. Like, that'd be a cool.
Well, like WrestleMania 2, they had 3 main events at 3 locations, and
at the time, that's really impressive that they were able to pull that off.
All right, so let's get into the Rumble. We don't have to talk a lot about every match, obviously, if we're going to get through this in like an hour. But I did go back and watch the beginning matches from the pre-show that I had missed, and I got to say that the very first match, the non-title tag team match that they had, Bobby Roode, Chad Gable versus Scott Dawson and Rezar.
Yeah, what sense does that make?
That was a good match. Like, that was some really good wrestling. I don't know about the storyline going into it. I haven't watched Raw or SmackDown leading up to Royal Rumble. I haven't watched NXT. I didn't watch anything, but just watching 4 guys get in the ring and do a match, and 1 guy on the outside, it was good. Yeah, that was a good match, and it was not even 10 minutes. So it was just a quick, fast-paced.
Well, I mean, fun. Go figure. If they just let the guys go out there and do their thing. I mean, and we'll get into this as we go episode by episode through this podcast. They need to let the reins off of some of these guys a little bit. Just let them go out there, do their thing, be themselves. When they're sitting here and trying to like script every single aspect of it, it shows. And yeah.
All right, so let's see. We had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev for the U.S. Championship.
Poor Rusev.
Well, okay, so they had to injure Lana to set up for stuff later in the night. So, of course,
which I'm surprised that they thought that far out, honestly.
Well, I had heard, someone had actually told me on Friday that there was a storyline where Becky Lynch was going to lose and then come back later and find her way into the Rumble to win.
It makes sense.
And so they obviously had planned some of this stuff out, at least far enough ahead to have an idea going into it, even though it seems like there's a lot of booking that happens on the fly. But Nakamura, as it turns out, is going to be our first transitional champion. Yeah. So for our podcast, named off. So people who aren't familiar with a transitional champion, the idea is you put the belt on a guy just so he can lose it to another guy. So you're trying to get it off of one person and get it to another person, but you don't want those 2 people to have a match for whatever reason, either because they're both heels or they're both faces or their storylines don't match, or you just need to do something different with the characters. So you introduce a 3rd guy who takes it from one guy, but then almost immediately loses it to the other guy. So that's a transitional champion.
Mankind, SummerSlam with Ventura being there, that triple threat, that's what comes to my mind when I think about it.
Well, I think the most...
Austin didn't want to drop the title to Triple H, so Mankind was there to essentially...
Yeah, the most famous one, though, that gets referenced is Yokozuna
Yeah.
When he beat Bret Hart, but then immediately lost it to Hogan. They wanted to move the belt from Hart to Hogan, but didn't want those two to wrestle. And so you have that.
Yeah.
So Nakamura becomes our first because he wins it here against Rusev, but then we'll get into what happens to it later on in the week.
But poor Rusev, I just want to touch on that really quick. Here's a guy that the fans have always wanted to cheer for, and for whatever reason, they always maintained him and kept him heel for the longest time. Then they decide, well, we'll pair him off with Aiden English. Rusev Day gets over. And of course, the machine doesn't like it when you find a way to get yourself over. So they knock him down a few pegs. But I just don't understand why give him the United States title only to lose it back in such a short period of time. Like it just.
Well, we can talk about that because I do have some theories, but we'll talk about that when we get to SmackDown. So, all right, and then we had Fatal 4-Way match: Buddy Murphy, Hideo
Itami.
Yeah, I'm going through these Japanese. I'm always horrible with names. Akira and Kalisto.
Akira Tozawa.
Yeah, and this is for the Cruiserweight Championship, and it was a match that was designed to get there's a whole bunch of energy right as you get into the pay-per-view. People come into the arena and they're getting set up.
That's what the cruiserweights are for, right? That's how I always saw in WCW. They come out, they jerk the curtain, they get the crowd like excited and amped up. And I didn't check out this match, but I'm assuming that this was the case. It was exciting, fast paced.
Yeah, it was a flippy flip match. Lots of action and excitement. Not as much ring psychology as much as there was. Some high flying spots. But I mean that is what cruiserweights are for, really.
And news to come out of that, like Hideo Itami asked for and was granted his release, so he is no longer with the company as of today.
And the weird thing is that a lot of times when something like that happens, either WWE will very much like pretend like it didn't happen, or they pretend like it was their idea, or they tell everybody nobody talked to this person because they're leaving, whatever. And this seemed to be a very amicable. He was just like, I got some other stuff I want to do. And they were like, yeah, we don't really have anything for you. So, okay.
It makes sense.
And a whole bunch of wrestlers were tweeting to him, like, best of luck. And, you're my hero and like all this stuff. So they didn't put the clamp down on everybody not to talk to him. And they didn't try to hide the fact he was leaving. And they didn't try to say he was fired or anything. So obviously there was something friendly ending there.
It's going to be an interesting next couple months, honestly, with AEW starting up. If anyone's not happy in WWE, will they be granted their releases, and will they go there? New Japan still like this hot thing, and Hideo Itami was sort of, he came into NXT, and then Finn Balor came in, and then Hideo got injured, and that set him back. Then he came back and he got injured again. So it just overall it ended up not working out for him. But I imagine wherever he goes moving forward, and once he goes back to his old moniker of Kenta, I'm sure he'll be back to kicking people's faces in.
Maybe he'll go to TNA. He might show up on Impact, right?
I mean, yeah, sure.
Technically there are options, right? Because
there's plenty now.
There's TNA, which of course still exists for whatever reason.
Somehow.
And then you've got ROH, which is out there. There's Major League Wrestling, which is actually not bad, and I've actually caught a bunch of those on BN Sports.
Okay.
That's when Tony Schiavone is helping out with that one, and it's also set up in Florida, so they're getting a lot of guys who go to WWE training, but then don't necessarily get a contract or anything, so they pick them up to do a couple matches. They bring in a bunch of guys from Mexico and stuff like that. So it's a pretty good promotion, but it's on a channel that nobody gets unless you like to watch a lot of international soccer, which I do, but I'm probably like that small sliver of the population.
Well, and that's kind of the problem with most of these promotions that are there now, which I'm hoping the AEW can kind of just hop over. I'm hoping that they can find, especially with all that money behind them, find a network that is more eyes on it, because Impact right now, I don't even know what channel they're on. They were on Pop or something, and I think they moved to something else. I don't even remember the name.
No, I think they're still on Pop. Yeah.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got YouTube TV, so on YouTube TV, you just type in the name of the show you want, you hit the plus sign to add it to your library, and it just shows up. So I don't even know what channel most stuff is on anymore. All right, so into the Rumble. It was weird. I didn't realize it was a baseball field that they actually did the show at. Yeah. So they just have this tiny little stage, and the guys come walking up from underneath, and I'm like, did they just get off the J train? Like, what is this thing? They're coming out of the subway to come up. It didn't make any sense to me till I found out later. Oh, okay, that must be like the dugout or whatever they're coming from.
I actually liked it. It's nice every once in a while.
It was different. It was different.
Minimalistic setup, yeah.
But I miss pay-per-view stages. Pay-per-view stages in the late 90s, early 2000s
where they each had their own gimmick.
Yeah, and you would have like giant pyramids, or you would have walls of chairs, or you would have a castle, or you would have, whatever. That they don't do any of that stuff anymore. But they did do a lot of the augmented reality, which we saw at WrestleMania last year. I don't know if
that 3D stuff that hangs above. Yeah,
right.
It's fine.
And so for a lot of guys that came out, they had a bunch of augmented reality stuff. They didn't really do it a lot in the Rumble, but for a lot of the singles matches, they did throw stuff out there. So at least it felt like there was something more. Although they did the weird thing where they came out to the ring and then had to turn and go out, which is always like, why? I don't know.
I don't know. They could have set it up in a different way, because you think baseball stadium, it's kind of like one corner going out. Why couldn't you have just the
only thing I could think of is it has something to do with the cameras and the fact that they couldn't build a large tower because the way the stadium is a lot more flat, but whatever, it doesn't matter. All right. So main show, we opened with Asuka and Becky Lynch for the SmackDown women's title. It was a fine match, but I just felt like it went a little long.
Yeah.
It went almost 20 minutes, a little under 20 minutes. And it just, I don't know. I like Becky Lynch. I like Asuka. So I didn't really have a problem with the two of them having a match, but like I said, it just felt like it just kind of kept going. Like there was a point maybe about 12, 13 minutes in where it looked like they were going for the finish, and it kind of built up the crowd. And then it was, just a fake out, roll out of the ring. And then it just kind of died off a little bit, and it took a while for it to come back. So, but yeah, still, it was a good match.
I could see where they're setting up to, because in my head, I know that Becky and Ronda had been sort of going back and forth, and you go back to Survivor Series when they were supposed to have their match, but then Nia hit Becky and messed up her face, and she couldn't compete for a little while. So I could kind of see the wheels turning of this is where it might head to. So when I saw that she lost, I was like, all right, well, the shenanigans are gonna ensue. She'll end up in the Rumble somehow.
Yeah. All right, so then we had Shane McMahon and The Miz versus Sheamus and Cesaro for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I've never been a fan of The Miz. I know. That's one of the few things that once I jumped on Beyond Retro and everything, it's the one thing that you and I always talked about, is you just say, I hate The Miz. I don't like The Miz at all. I was like, all right. And it's like, I've never thought he's been that good on promos. I've never thought he's been dynamic in the ring. There are times that he's looked really sloppy. Even when he was the champion, WWE champion for that short time, he looked strung out. He had, bags under his eyes. He was looking a little pasty and puffy, like he wasn't working out as much as he should have been. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But he does movies. He's a reality TV show, so.
He's a good company guy. Like, he's someone that they can always rely on to leave a town and be somewhere and do a radio show at 6 a.m. They've always been able to depend on him. It's kind of weird to think of Miz as like a veteran now.
And I didn't understand this whole thing that was going on with Miz's dad, and Miz's dad like being proud of him now. It's like, because he was WWE champion.
I know.
No big deal about that. But now that you're a SmackDown Tag Team Champion with Shane McMahon of all people, now I can be proud.
Not to mention all the United States and Intercontinental Championship reigns. Let's just SmackDown Tag Team Champion.
I guess you got to have some sort of gimmick for that face turn, right? But it just whatever.
And even after the match, when he's celebrating with his dad and they're trying to put that over on commentary, I'm just like, what? That doesn't.
Well, and we didn't have the commentary up that loud.
Yeah.
So I just see him go out and hug like this Grizzly Adams hobo looking guy, and I'm like, what? Did he just is this the homeless guy he sponsored to come in to watch the show? Like, I don't understand what's going on.
It's the Make-A-Wish kid.
It's a very old kid. Oh, he's got the Benjamin Button disease.
Yeah.
So he's actually 8 years old, you know.
But no, they were just like, yeah, Mrs. Dad's never been proud of him, and now he can finally say that he is. And I'm like, he's a SmackDown Tag Team Champion. Whatever.
Well, and the other thing with Shane is Shane immediately ran in there and attacked Sheamus at the beginning of the match. And it's like, Sheamus should not be afraid of Shane. Like, Shane's only gimmick is that he takes punishment and he'll put other people through it.
And he'll jump off the things.
Right. So, but like running at a guy throwing punches is not a Shane gimmick, and it's not something that a guy like Sheamus should be afraid of. It's if Shane were to like grab a chair and like put it in front of Shane's own head and come running at you as a headbutt, that's when you're afraid, because Shane would do something dumb like that, but not, just coming out throwing fists. And Shane's fists always look
bad,
really bad. Yeah,
really bad.
So anyway, they had a match and it was a thing, and Shane and Miz won, and that was.
Yeah, let's see where that goes. I imagine it won't last long at all, because for whatever reason, they can't seem to want to put any focus on a tag division.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
because that comes into something else we're going to talk about later.
All right.
So they had Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks, and it was a lot of boos for Ronda Rousey. Someone in the chat was just talking about that. Who was talking about Who Dat Whale? I think brought that up in the chat room. Or I don't remember, but yeah, somebody was just talking about that in the chat. And Macho Man and Rock and Febmon were talking about that. People have been talking about Ronda Rousey and how she's just getting all this hate from the crowd. And like I said, I haven't been watching week to week, so I don't know exactly why. But it was pretty clear that the crowd does not buy into her.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. You have all of this homegrown talent that a vast majority of people have watched. Sasha, Becky, Charlotte, Bayley, all in NXT, work their way up, have their own championship reigns. And here comes Ronda, who's basically, let's face it, it's similar to a Lesnar situation, comes in and they put the belt on her pretty quick. And I get it, but at the same time, too, for as long as she has been doing this, which isn't very long, I'm thoroughly impressed by her. I think she's decent enough in the ring, even if, from what I've read, she's had to go over and do her matches basically beginning to end beforehand with who she's working with to kind of get the vibes and all the spots and everything down. But I mean, at the same time too, like, she's pretty natural in there. You haven't really. You take Sasha or Bayley, you think in their first year of wrestling they were that good? I doubt it. Her promos are, and I guess we'll kind of get into that when we get into Raw, but her promos are just hit and miss when it's scripted and when they go out there, and she gets kind of like off. But as we saw on Raw, because I'll just mention it briefly, when Becky comes out there and does pick her, the promo that Ronda says right into her face, that was good. I like that. So yeah. More of that, less of the here's what you have to say. I feel like she was just saying that.
Yeah. And one thing I caught at the end, though, so Ronda Rousey beat Sasha Banks. She went out, she celebrated with her, I guess, new husband, whatever. And then she got back into the ring with Sasha, and they did a little like respect face-off type thing. But then Sasha did a 4 horsemen interface. So is there now a female 4 horsemen group?
Oh, yeah. It's the 4 horsewomen, as they dub themselves.
Well, okay, yeah.
Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Bayley, Becky Lynch. They were doing that in NXT, and then even before Ronda was there, it was Ronda, Shayna Baszler, and a couple. I think it's the 2 women that are rolling with Shayna Baszler in NXT right now. So I think they're building towards the potential of who's the real 4 horsewomen match.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. We got the 30-woman Royal Rumble match. This was over an hour long just for this match. This, I'm pretty sure this went on way too long, and that's why some stuff after it got cut down a little bit. This was one of those matches where it seemed like what they did was they scripted spots, right? So they made spots that everybody had to do. And they always say it's going to be, 2 minutes in between the clock, or it's 90 seconds between the clock, and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It may be 1 minute, it may be 4 minutes. It just kind of depends on whether or not the spots get done at the right time, whatever, to let the people come out. So I think that probably had something to do with the timing being off and it going really, really long, and it felt really, really long.
But at least it didn't close the show this year. It closed.
That's true. That's true.
Show.
But some of the, so we're not going to go over every person who came in, every person who got eliminated, whatever. We did have Beth Phoenix on commentary, which I thought was pretty cool. And one thing I noticed when Charlotte came out, it looked like she's had plastic surgery and she's gotten the mole off her face removed.
You know what? I haven't looked at that. I wasn't paying enough attention to it. I was like, it was on, I was watching it, but I was kind of just also zoning out at some point. Cause I don't know. I during some of these shows, I kind of get bored.
Yeah. Well,
better word.
I mean, it's well, and it looked really bad early on, because early on you had a lot of people in there, and of course they're just kind of throwing slow punches in the corner and putting them to the rope and trying to push them, and they won't go over.
They're buying time.
Yeah, it was a lot of really
not in a realistic, like, I'm really trying to get you out. It's just like, all right, who's coming out now?
Right, which, I mean, that always happens in a Rumble.
Yeah.
But it just seemed to be a little more exaggerated here as they waited for a lot more people to come in so they could do some more of those big spots. Let's see. One thing, though, there was somebody in there. I do know that she was from NXT, the Chinese pirate. I can't think of her name. Is it?
You're putting me on the spot. Oh man. Why can't
I'm pretty sure it was Hojo in Japan, but I can't remember what her name is here. Is it the Kari Sane, or is it the?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Kari Sane or something like that.
Kari Zane. Yeah.
Carne asada is what I wanted to say, but I knew that wasn't right.
I want to say it's Kari Zane. Carrie. I don't know why I want to say Carrie, but I want to say it's Kari.
Macho Man and Rock says it's Kairi Zane. Kairisane. Okay, so she came out, and I'm like, okay, Chinese pirate, whatever. I kind of think maybe I remember that, but she came out and does a couple moves, disappears for a minute, and then suddenly she's on the top rope. And she does that Macho Man elbow.
She's got a good elbow drop.
And I was like, I didn't care what else happened in that match. Like, that elbow was fantastic. Like, that was the weird. Like, I was turning. Like, I don't care what other big moves. Like, I don't care if someone comes in and puts 6 people up on their shoulders and does an F5. I don't care if they throw a chair. I don't care if someone.
Kyrie, that's what it is.
Yeah. I don't care about anything else. That elbow made me so happy.
That's like her main thing. But yeah, former NXT Women's Champion. I think she won the inaugural Mae Young Classic, I believe.
What? I thought it was, well, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had a lot of stuff. Oh, we had Vega from Street Fighter, the female, came out.
Yeah.
She ran under the ring.
Yeah.
And then she milked it for like 6 more entrants. To open and look out, and someone would be fighting outside the ring, and she'd stick her head out and look around and go back, and it was way overdone.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess you remind people that you're there.
But then the payoff to that.
But then the payoff came when she poked her head out, and then Hornswoggle poked his head out. And the funny thing was, we had just joked about that a few minutes earlier, where she poked her head out, and we were like, I wonder if she'll find Hornswoggle under there. Ha ha ha. Because I think he went under there, 4 years ago and disappeared.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, he comes out and starts chasing her around. So of course, she jumps in the ring, she gets dumped out. He jumps in the ring, he looks at everybody, he just runs out, and he chases her backstage, and they both disappear.
It kind of shows you how predictable it can be, right? If you're able to just be like, oh, I wonder if Hornswoggle will be under the ring.
Yeah, but it also goes back to the fact that now you realize Hornswoggle was under the ring for like a half hour or so. Like when they showed the video package beforehand, he had to. Usually, what they do is they have a cart, and it's got a curtain hanging on it, and they put him underneath the cart, and they bring it out to ringside, and they put extra monitors on it, or they will reach under the ring and pull out like a thing of water and set it on, or set water underneath, or it looks like they're doing some sort of supplies while the video's playing, so the people watching live just think there's some maintenance or something happening. But then that's how Hornswoggle, or like if Undertaker's going to come out of the ring, or Kane comes out when they do that type of thing. Yeah, so
can you imagine like just laying there and just having to listen to
and it's loud under there. I can tell you it is loud.
And you have to probably be quiet too, because they always keep that microphone under there to give it more of an impact.
Well, I think they've got. Well, I don't know that they still use the microphone underneath.
They probably have some other means of doing it now,
but I know they put a monitor down there so the guys underneath can at least see what's going on now. So that's at least something. But so then we had all these people come in. So my friend Kevin, who I was watching with, Nikki Cross is apparently his new favorite wrestler, who's the new Daphne, who runs out and screams and is insane. Her hair.
But a better worker than Daphne, I would say.
Well, I don't know that that's
she was paired up with Sanity. I don't know if you've seen Sanity on occasion when they pop up on Smackdown, because I think that's the brand that they're supposed to be on.
And again, I haven't watched in a long time, so no. But anyway, we got down to the end. Lana was supposed to come out at like number 28.
Yeah.
So there were 2 more people after her, but of course she's got a thing on her foot because she got hurt earlier, and she's just doing like the slowest walk ever, trying to do and she would take like 4 steps and stop and kind of sit there for a minute and take like 2 steps and stop. So they did the next entrance, and they did the time for number 30, and it was Carmella because she won the mixed match team challenge, whatever. And then they showed Lana was still out there. So then Becky Lynch comes out, and there's a bunch of refs and Fit Finlay standing around trying to help Lana.
Finlay cameo.
And so not only did Fit Finlay get a cameo, but you had the Irish guy backstage who comes out to get involved, and then the Irish woman comes out. And so you've got like this little, maybe there's a conspiracy going on. The Irish guy and the Irish women's wrestler, former champion, come out, and they have this little talk, and she's like, let me in the ring. He's like, I can't really do that. But eventually he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, go. So she takes Lana's place and gets in, and of course she wins.
Becky Lynch, winner of the Rumble.
Which I'm fine with. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, I was ready for it to be done after about 45 minutes, not an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Very long. We got Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles in a match. And it was good.
Yeah.
No real complaints with that. Except until the end. Everything was going along fine. When you go 20 minutes doing a title match, it's got to be good. It's got to be on point. You're going to lose people. And they did everything great until the point where Eric Rowan suddenly came back out. And so Rowan, he comes out, he bumps the ref. AJ Styles gets choke slammed. And so Daniel Bryan is able to retain his championship, and AJ Styles is out. And AJ Styles is apparently leaving WWE.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard that he was in negotiations, but we're confirmed that he's done now.
I think it's like 90%. It's
really.
Unless they're trying to work everybody. It's looking like he's going to be
between him and I know we'll talk about this probably a little more at length, but Ambrose is out of there too.
Yeah,
man, it's getting kind of weird.
So okay, again, it was good, but the ending was terrible.
Poor, like that dude, he gets hurt, and then they do something else with him. It's like, you're in the Wyatt family, now you're not in the Wyatt family, now you're in the Wyatt family again. Now you and Luke Harper are gonna carry around big hammers and wear masks.
That was the Bludgeon Brothers. That was bad. That was really bad. Man. All right, so then we had Finn Balor and Brock Lesnar, and I'm guessing that this match got cut down for time because they still had the other Royal Rumble to do afterwards.
But also Brock Lesnar match,
but they did a gimmick with it. So they had Brock Lesnar and Finn Balor go outside the ring, and they cleared a bunch of stuff off the announce table. And Brock Lesnar gets thrown into the table. I forget, did he charge at him and Balor moved, or Balor threw him into it? He charged. Okay. Anyway, but
Brock Lesnar was the charge. The second one was him throwing him in.
All right. Well, so Brock Lesnar ran into the table, and he ran right into the corner, right into his gut, where he had surgery several years ago for
diverticulitis.
That's the word. I wasn't going to try to say it. And so they worked that in as part of the match, which is actually a really genius idea.
Yeah.
So I know he ran in the table, and then Finn Balor threw him in again, so it would be more. Then he throws him in the ring, and he's like punching him in the stomach, and he does like a double stomp on the stomach, and he's just like attacking that part of the stomach again and again and again and again. And so you're looking at Brock Lesnar, and you're thinking, wow, they may actually take the title off him, because apparently he's supposed to be leaving at some point after WrestleMania. So they might actually take it off of him now and just have him chase until Mania and get defeated. I don't know. But then he comes back, and he's able to he puts him in what did he put him into? The Kimura lock.
Yeah.
And got him to
made
tap
himself
out.
a meme, apparently.
Yeah, so
the camera work.
So anyway, he got the tap out, and he
Finn Balor didn't even like lose to the F5. He tapped out, and I was like, okay. I mean, think about it though. Why not take the belt off of him? Put it on someone that's actually going to be there every week. And I mean, Finn Balor honestly was the Universal Champ for a day. Let's see what he can actually do with that championship. But whatever. Brock's gonna Brock. I like, at first it was cool and it was fine that he was back and he was champion all these numerous times that he has been. But now it's just it's the same thing. Like, Heyman doesn't even seem like he cuts any different of a promo. It's always the same promo, the same Lesnar match, and it's just it's old, it's boring. The fans want something new.
Just to throw it here in the chat, they're having a talk. Macho Man and Rock is talking about how he's been watching for about 35 years, so he may be about the same age I am, because I've been watching since mid 80s as well. But he says he's wanted to turn it off, but he just keeps coming back to it, kind of the same way I am. But he says he's never taken a girl out on a Monday night. That's why Friday and Saturday exist. But I guess the problem is, though, SmackDown is moving to Friday on Fox, so he's going to have to rethink his women plans with that.
Well, all the power to him to still, after this amount of time, just be, you know what? Yeah, I'm sitting down and watching Raw tonight. It's tough.
So Lesnar then beat up Balor more after 3 German suplexes, posed an F5. So I guess the one thing it tried to do is it showed that Balor was at least smart enough to try to do something, but you're just not strong enough to beat Brock Lesnar. So he lost, but he still comes across as a guy who's smart enough to know what's going on. And if he had a second chance, he might be able to find that breakthrough.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they'll just squander any opportunity going past that to take anything that you just said and just negate it entirely.
Which is more than likely true, but at least there's something there.
Yeah.
So then we had the 30-man Royal Rumble match. We had Elias. He was number 1, so he's out in the ring to do his performance. And the big return of the night is that Jeff Jarrett has returned to WWE television. They're apparently going to use him in a short feud with Elias going forward, but he does have a backstage job. So he will be working with the company in an ongoing basis moving forward. So
I guess the gold bar thing didn't really work out for him as much as he would have hoped. Did you hear about that at all?
The selling the gold?
That pyramid scheme that he was
doing.
Well,
I mean, gold prices have fallen in the last couple of years. So if you bought gold 5 years ago, you probably lost money. But anyway, again, not to go through everything that happened, but we did have some interesting stuff here. Nakamura, since I didn't see the match earlier, I saw Nakamura walk out here, and I was like, why is he wearing Michael Jackson's Thriller outfit?
That's his thing.
The red and black leather thing.
Yeah.
But unzipped, so you could see his chest, which I was like, wow, that is such an awesome heel outfit for him to wear.
Well, before it used to be the jacket, and he would just like take the jacket off.
Right, but to have like the unzipped thing, you know, just like adds an air of like what a douche, which is perfect for a heel. We got Kurt Angle, we got Jinder Mahal, we got Big E, we got Samoa Joe, we got Kurt Hawkins, we got Seth Rollins, we got Titus O'Neil, who ran to the ring and then stopped right before he got to it, so he didn't get a repeat of what happened before, where he tripped and fell and slid underneath the ring last year. So they at least acknowledged that. But
who was hanging out under the ring that he decided to chase after? Well, it was Hawkins. Kurt Hawkins decided to
out of the ring. Because Hawkins didn't want to get in, and we had Kofi Kingston, who did some more fun eliminations. Oh, there was someone in the women's match did the fun eliminations thing. I forget who it was.
Naomi?
Was it Naomi? She got thrown out. She put her feet on the dasher boards and then flipped over to the ring and put them on the ring post and pulled herself up.
Yeah,
which
she's kind of cool. Yeah, she's kind of adapted the Kofi Kingston.
She's a good gymnast, but a terrible wrestler and a horrible promo. So I mean, at least she's got something.
I would agree with you on that.
But so then Kofi did some fun stuff. They did one where once
Xavier Woods
up down down. I couldn't think of his name. Once he came out, Kofi got thrown out, but Xavier caught him and put him on his back and walked him over to the steps so that Kofi got to stay in. But then both of them got thrown out immediately afterwards.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, well, what was the point? And it wasn't even his best ones either. Like, I feel like those are long gone. The ones that he did before with and they always talk about the pogo chair, and I'm like, well, the chair did have wheels on it, so he didn't have to do that anyway.
Well, you had to get it rolling, though. He couldn't put his feet down.
True.
So. Although technically he could have put one foot down and kicked himself across. But anyway.
Yeah, they need to honestly change the Rumble rules. I feel like
but I mean, if you think about it, the rules were in flux all night, because in the women's match you had one part of the Iconics came out, but she didn't want to get in the ring until her partner came out, and someone else came out next that wasn't her partner, so she still waited. And then right before her partner came out, she got in the ring anyway. Yeah. But then when Kurt Hawkins came out, they were like, you got to get in the ring. And he was like, no, I don't want to get in the ring. And they were like forcing him, pushing him, like, you got to get in the ring. It's like, why didn't you do that in the other match?
It's fun to play with in certain situations, but maybe they need to kind of look at it a little bit, because, I don't know, people can just go through the ropes when they want to, as long as it's not over the top.
It's wrestling. Don't think.
Yeah, that's true.
We had Drew McIntyre, we had Mustafa Ali. I mean, there was a lot of talent that came into the match. Mm-hmm. There was some fun stuff. Bobby Lashley, Rey Mysterio. Lashley was eliminated almost immediately, so they just threw him in to throw him out. Just sorry, Bobby. Yeah. We had Dolph Ziggler came out, did a whole bunch of eliminations. We had Randy Orton. We had Strowman out there. Ziggler was out there. So again, we didn't get any big.
Yeah.
There was no Goldberg, although he may be going to AEW for a run. There was no return of CM Punk. But he's, there was no. But
Batista, never coming back. He's never coming back.
Yeah, but Batista was a big rumor. He didn't show up. They didn't have Sting do a run out, so they didn't have anybody that they have people that they could have asked to come back in. And they didn't use any of them. And I at least give them credit for not going for that easy, oh, look, it's the Brooklyn Brawler returns, because they do that sometimes. Yeah. But they didn't do that. So that was okay. But at the same time, you get to the end and you're like, I just kind of felt like.
That's the problem kind of with the product today.
It's like once you've done so many of these big surprise things. You threw in Jeff Jarrett at the beginning, but then that was really it, until number 30. So R-Truth, Vince McMahon's BFF, comes out. He gets his music. He gets his mic. And I thought for sure they were going to hit his music. He was just going to run down. But he starts rapping and dancing, and he's doing his full entrance. And then Nia Jax just walks out behind him and just clubs him, throws him in, just beats the crap out of him, and walks to the ring and takes his spot. So Becky Lynch had to get approval from Fit Finlay as part of this Irish conspiracy to get in to take the place of Lana. But Nia Jax can just walk out, knock somebody out, and walk into the match.
It's kind of, when you think about the Rumble as a whole, now that we're talking about it, it's like, man, they really just bent every rule and then just went back on everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason. For a long time WWE didn't do intergender matches because they had a rule with Mattel with the toy license. Mattel was like, your product's risque and we do stuff for kids, and we don't really want to buy into this knowing that you may pull out HLA again or something like this. And so they said they wouldn't show violence between men and women. That was something they were not going to do. So that's why they haven't done any of these intergender matches. They did the mixed team challenge, but even then,
once someone tagged in, then you had
to switch out. So they weren't doing any of that. So they want to now kind of test the waters because they're trying to push the women's product. And I think they don't want to do another 2 Rumble again. They want to push some of this stuff and maybe take some of the overlapping titles, Intercontinental and US and whatever, and shake some of those up and be like, women can fight for the US championship. They want to test some of that stuff. So if you take someone like Nia Jax, who's huge, and you send her out to face off against a guy shoving Nia Jax doesn't have the same effect because Nia Jax can shove the guy back and you can buy it just as cleanly. It'd be different if you had like Alexa Bliss out there who it looks like Randy Orton could just grab her forearm and break it, like matchstick. So I think that's why they had Nia Jax go out there, was to start testing some of that to see if they could play into it. And then you had, of course, R-Truth and the whole storyline with him, but we'll get into that when we talk about that later on. So the final 4, it was Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler, and
Mustafa Ali.
No, Andrade
Cien Almas. Well, now he's just Andrade.
Yeah, however you say his name.
Yeah, they dropped the rest of his name, but yeah, it was kind of. I saw some people that were like, "Oh, is it really just down to Andrade and Dolph?" And I was like, "No, Seth Rollins and Braun are still on the outside of the ring, just milking it for."
And of course, it came down to Strowman and Rollins. Rollins hit the curb stomp and then picked him up did the curb stomp on the apron.
They honestly kind of did when Benoit won the Rumble, like how he had Big Show in the headlock and he just like gradually took him over the ropes. They sort of did that spot in a way, and then of course added the curb stomp to it. But yeah, Seth Rollins winner.
So overall, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I was expecting a lot worse, and it was better than my expectations. But it wasn't a fantastic show, and it was way too long.
Yeah,
overall.
Well, I was gonna say something about the Rumble. A double-edged sword. Like, I wish there would have been more surprise entrants. At the same time, I'm glad they're like, all right, you know what? Here's these guys. Let's throw more of our NXT guys that are popular out there to kind of pop the crowd. But at the same time, too, you sort of realize, and this is by their own fault with how they've just basically had the nostalgia acts come in and be on top, how they have. It's just, it felt like there wasn't a lot of star power there. Cena was injured, so he wasn't in the match. How would that have changed?
Cena's technically not injured.
He's just
he's filming something or getting ready to film something. Okay. But here's the thing, Cena was never going to be in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, okay.
They advertised it because they had to fill up the baseball stadium. But he was never going to be in it. He starts shooting a movie, I think like February 4th or something. So he's got to like get in shape for the movie and be ready for it. And they couldn't let something happen to him during the match.
I mean, I'm glad he changed his tune on that whole thing, because before he was like, "Oh, The Rock's off making movies and I'm here." I don't know. I'm happy.
And part of that was also to play up the WrestleMania angle. Yeah. With him versus Rock. Yeah. So people have come back at him with that, but at the same time, that was an angle to sell another pay-per-view. So anytime that you can come up with some sort of angle that kind of legitimately makes sense to sell the feud, it works. So Cena said that about The Rock, but it wasn't, it was something that you could listen to and you can go, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, I see where he's coming from, but he didn't do it like because he really hates The Rock and
bit of like hostility.
Right, but it's not everybody takes it out like the two of them hate each other backstage or something.
I know that
because he dared to say that. And it's like he said it for an angle and it worked the angle. And so it's probably something that they're like laughing about backstage now. It's not, like, what a hypocrite. It's like, calm down. They were running an angle, whatever. So, all right. We've got to go quick through Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it won't take long to get through those anyway, because honestly, stuff happened, but not a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, so Seth Rollins came out. He said, it's been his dream since he was a kid. And he said that if he won the Rumble, he wasn't going to do it, but he's going to do it. He's going to point at the sign because he won the Royal Rumble and now he's going to WrestleMania.
I mean, you could genuinely, I feel like anyway, you could see it on his face when he won that he was just like, it felt good to him to win it. You could see that. He looked like that little kid that was like, I want to win. Well,
and he's definitely someone who loves the business. So.
Yeah.
But he came out, he said he wasn't sure who he was going to challenge. It was something he had to think about. Triple H came out and Triple H said, I'm glad I pushed you. I told you that you had to take it to the next level and congratulations. And so then, of course, Dean Ambrose came out. Dean Ambrose was like, hey, we were a team. We were brothers and we've all fallen apart and whatever. And then he says he wants to, wrestle against Seth for the title. And Triple H is like, I got to think about it, whatever, goes to leave. And Dean Ambrose gets in his face, which I thought the way they played it was really good. Triple H goes to duck under the middle rope to go out. And Ambrose ducks under the rope to get right in front of his face. And through the ropes, he's like, do you have to ask your wife about it? Which I thought was a great way that they could set it up, a good visual. And so then, of course, Triple H books the match right then because you're a horrible boss if the guy can goad you into making the match right then when you weren't going to. So Triple H is terrible at his job is what we've learned there.
Well, so when Triple H is out there talking to Seth Rollins and saying, I always I pushed you and all this stuff, because Triple H in NXT is one thing and is looked at as a face, but when he's here as the authority, he's usually the heel. What kind of vibe were you getting? Like the heel vibe from, or was it more like a face vibe from him?
No, it was very face. Okay. And especially when he came out, the crowd was chanting NXT, NXT, NXT. Yeah. So I think
he's doing really good things down there.
So I think he was playing it off as well. And they did that thing several weeks ago where when Vince came back and said, we've let you down and whatever, they were all faces there. So Shane, Stephanie, Triple H, Vince, they were all faces in the ring doing that whole segment, because I watched that thinking like, oh good, they're going to change everything, and then the show continued exactly the same as you'd expect, and they turned
which made no sense.
But anyway, so Rollins and Ambrose, they have this match. Rollins and Ambrose looks so sloppy and so disinterested in this match.
Well,
so anyway, he Rollins, of course, he gets him down for the curb stomp, hits him with the stomp. Dean Ambrose falls down, jumps up, and falls down again. It reminded me of Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan in that SummerSlam match where Shawn Michaels because Hogan was like, you got to put me over. And they were like, no, we want you to put over Shawn Michaels. And he said, no, I'm going over. Yeah. I'm going over, brother. And so Dean Ambrose, he just did one of those like just terrible bumps, down, up, down, 1, 2, 3, he's out. They go to commercial. They come back. He's sitting in the ring with a chair and a microphone, and he's acting very serious. And he's like, don't chant right now. There's something I got to talk about, which is like, oh, he's leaving the company. We all know this. He's going to cut the promo. And before he can do it, Nia Jax and Tamina, their music hits, and they come down to the ring, and they throw him out. And so they get in his face. They're going back and forth, and Nia Jax clubs him, throws him out. And so, again, Nia Jax is pushed, hitting the guy selling it so that they can push for more of that male-female wrestling action.
But do you think it's a work, or do you really think Ambrose is out of there? Because he gave us notice this weekend, supposedly.
Yeah. I think he's going to take time off. I don't think he really likes his character. I don't think he likes his gimmick. I don't think he likes he doesn't like what he's doing now. Of course, his wife is still with the company and she's doing commentary on Raw. So it'd be kind of awkward if he was in another company and she was there. It's not unheard of, but it would be kind of weird. My guess is he's going to take some time off. He might do some smaller indie shows or something here and there and just try to like rebuild himself in something else, and then maybe come back in a year as some new version of Dean Ambrose. But I don't think it's a ploy to go to AEW or ROH or anything like that. I don't think it's a ploy. It just doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I kind of look at it in the other direction. I think that he might go sort of like the way of Punk. He's made a ton of money in the short span that he's been on the roster.
Well, but Punk thought he could be an MMA fighter. And he really could not. So
man, that was we won't talk about that. It was bad. It was really bad. Like it didn't even look like he trained at all. You see him like throw punches and kicks. I know it takes a lot of balls to get in there and do it, but just watching that, I was like,
and Ambrose is always my problem with his wrestling is he's always very floaty. Which is a term I use for his punches and kicks never quite feel like they connect. And it's, in this business, you don't want to hurt people. But like Bret Hart, he had the softest punches in the world of professional wrestling, and each one looked like he was legit punching the guy out, which, he just sold it so well. Ambrose, he throws the punch and it's like his whole arm just like goes limp right before it hits, and it just looks like all the energy drops out. And I've just never been sold on his impacts. Yeah. Some of the moves he does are really good, but just like the basic punches and kicks and stuff, they just look so floaty to me.
I think one of the worst examples is when he would do that thing where he bounced off the middle rope and like hang himself on the top, and then come back and do the clothesline. That always just seems so sluggish.
That's just a dumb thing.
But he's a good promo, and people want to get behind him, but they've just sort of squandered.
I think he should have been the heel when Rollins turned heel. I think Ambrose should have been the one to go heel and join the company, and they should have had Rollins stay face for a while.
Well,
but anyway,
yeah.
Let's get through this. So they did a Nia Jax, Tamina versus Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. They did an old school promo with Bliss and Mickie James talking in a little window while they were coming to the ring and doing the Mean Girls thing, talking about the other two and Nia Jax being so big and fat, which is funny in a very sad way, because Mickie James, when she was with the company before, they kept telling her she was fat and she needed to lose weight. And if she was not fat,
Piggy James and Lay Cool, I remember that.
So Piggy James, they called her.
Yeah.
So that was pretty terrible. But let's see, Tamina and Nia Jax won, so they get to join the chamber match for the tag titles. So
yeah, I'm kind of curious how, because I imagine.
So the women's elimination chamber match is for the women's tag team titles. And they're gonna have each team in a pod.
Yeah.
Or are they breaking up the teams to go? I don't know how this is working.
I think they put them both in a pod. They've done a tag team one before, like for the men. I think they're both in a pod, if I remember correctly. But are the tag team? I'm assuming that these tag champs, whoever wins, will jump between brands. I would imagine that would be the case, because I hope it's not going to be we're going to have a Raw women's tag team and a Smackdown, because at this point, I'm like, there's too many titles. There's like way too many.
So after we got that wonderful match, we got a Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle match, which was one of the saddest things for Kurt Angle's career I think I've ever seen. Yeah. Baron Corbin, I don't know what it is with Baron Corbin. He must have blackmail on Vince or something, because he, like, okay, They brought him in to be the GM to work with Kurt Angle, and he started wearing the button-up shirts and the pants. And at first you were like, oh, that's because Kane was in the suit, so they want him not in a suit, but to be kind of dressed up, the business casual, whatever. But then you started to notice that Baron Corbin has a little bit of a gut forming, and he's lost, like at some point his shirt gets ripped open and his muscle mass just isn't quite the same. So apparently he's been wearing the shirts to cover his physique.
Well, to be fair, like it was never that great anyway. It
wasn't, but it
looked like a sad face.
Right, but normally Vince sees a guy like that and they're out. They become jobbers, they show up for pre-shows and then they're gone. And instead he was the GM of Raw, and then when they said the Raw ratings were terrible and they were getting rid of Baron Corbin and they brought him out to humiliate him, they still let him wrestle for a half hour. He's still not the guy in charge anymore, but he's still there. He hasn't been, pushed aside. He didn't disappear. So there's something about him that they like him or they're willing to let him stay.
From what I recall, Vince is pretty high on him.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I mean, whatever. But like I said, maybe he's got some photos or something.
He's got Funaki gave him all the pictures, all the blackmail photos.
But Baron Corbin and Kurt Angle, I mean, this went like 3 or 4 minutes. It was really short, and it was sad the way that they just jobbed Angle out here.
He is in the twilight of his career, but
I mean, granted, but he's Kurt freaking Angle, right?
Yeah.
They had Finn Balor come out to cut a promo. They had Lashley and his hype man come out. They got in his face. They beat him up. The little guy took off his shirt that said Lashley, 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 and threw it on Finn Balor, and they walked out. So there's Finn Balor's.
Leo Rush is all right. It's good that Lashley has a mouthpiece for him because he's
hype man.
Lashley's not a good promo, so to have someone that
I agree.
That dynamic works, and him being an Intercontinental Champion, I'm perfectly fine with. I think Lashley in the mid card is probably what's best. Don't strap the rocket to him and have him in one of your high profile matches like you did at WrestleMania that one year.
Although I think maybe he should bring back the ECW championship that he held for so long. But anyway, that's the story.
Let it lay, man.
We got the Revival versus Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Kurt Hawkins, apparently it was his fault that they lost the match, so he's killing himself afterwards, like, I'm stupid, I'm horrible. And Zack Ryder, being the positivity and happy guy that he is, was trying to, like, no, you were great, and Hawkins is like slapping himself, no, it was me, it was my fault. And so I don't know what that's going to work into, but there's something there that they have going.
Well, I know that the Revival asked for their releases, and we're told no, we're gonna refocus the tag division. You guys will be on top, so we'll see how that plans out. I'm kind of in my head thinking that they'll grant the Revival their release, but on the way out they'll lose, and Kurt Hawkins will get his first win in however many matches. He's got that losing streak, right? So they're building to something, whatever it is.
We'll see how that goes. But we had Elias come out to do a promo. So, of course, you knew Jeff Jarrett was coming back out. So Jarrett came out to jaw jack at him, which, of course, brought the Road Dogg out, because Road Dogg was the roadie. That's where his name came from. Although I noticed that Road Dogg has a gut very similar to mine nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, he is, man, Jeff Jarrett and Road Dogg are what, in their 50s now? They have to be.
They're pretty old. And like I said, Jarrett, it's been revealed that he does have a backstage job. He's going to be working with the company outside of being a performer. So they will use him in these short little feuds here and there, or, just to transition somebody or give somebody something to do. I thought he looked good in the Rumble. Yeah. He didn't look as good here tonight. And I think the problem was he was wearing actual cowboy boots instead of wrestling boots. So it looked like, as he was moving through the ring, like his ankles didn't have the mobility he really needed. So it looked a little more awkward.
He did say slap nuts in his promo.
He did say slap nuts, and that made me very happy. I was kind of hoping, since he came out as the Double J last night, he would come out as slap nuts tonight, but they didn't do that. But at least he got to say it. I mean, they own the rights to it. Why not? So anyway, so Elias ended up, though, beating the crap out of him, and he ended up hitting Jeff Jarrett with the guitar.
So Elias is heel again. He was face. Now he's heel.
Oh, I didn't know he was supposed to be face.
I guess it seemed that way from what I gathered, that they were he was sort of leaning face, and I guess now he's just full back to where he was months prior. I don't know.
All right. Well, anyway, one thing that I thought, though, was weird about the whole thing is that when Road Dogg came out, the crowd started chanting, doing the holy shit, and he was like, no, this is a family show, don't do that, and it only made it go louder. And he's like, oh, I guess I screwed that up. And I'm kind of thinking, you knew what was going to happen by bringing attention to it.
Yeah.
I mean, the day after a big pay-per-view and people are doing chants, you draw attention to a chant, especially if you tell them to stop, it's just going to get louder. So that was something there. We had another Elimination Chamber qualifier. We had Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan against Natalya and Dana Brooke. And of course, they had Dana Brooke insult Natalya before they came out to the ring. So you knew that team was going to fall apart. Yeah. It was just a short, nothing, terrible little match.
I would assume as such.
Quick roll up, and it was over.
Yeah, talent involved. No need to make that go 15 minutes.
They had they did do a thing backstage with Mojo Rawley yelling in front of a mirror, and I was afraid for a minute that Ultimate Warrior's reflection was going to show up in it, but
something similar to
or Danny Spivey, they did that in WCW.
Yeah.
but didn't happen. So
taking me back with that one. That's very obscure. Like that was the whole like Paul Orndorff thing, right?
Was it Orndorff? What did? Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah. So
yeah.
With the white wig.
Yeah, terrible. Oh.
So anyway, then we got Ronda Rousey versus Bayley. So Ronda Rousey came out and she was talking whatever. Bayley came out and you got to defeat me and we were friends in NXT and what happened, whatever. So they got into a match right then and there, and of course Ronda Rousey won. Becky Lynch's music came out. The music came out. The music happened. She came out, and Ronda Rousey, like she's like cutting this promo, and it looks like she's starting to cry. Like her mascara, it looks like it's starting to like run down in the corners, and Becky Lynch gets in her face and she's like, unlike Seth, I don't have to think about it. I want to fight you at WrestleMania. I got into your face on Smackdown last year and left you in the middle of the ring and you never came looking for me. So I know you're afraid of me, and blah, 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 worked into all that. So I'm fine with that. Ronda Rousey, the rumor is that she's leaving. This may be,
she can sort of come and go as she pleases, sort of like how Brock does. But I think the plan for her was something about starting a family. And then I guess like if that happens, then she'll come back after the fact. I don't know.
Right. Well, it's kind of similar to Awesome Kong. Karma. Yeah.
Kamala. Wrong gimmick, Doug. Wrong gimmick.
So anyway, we got Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre having a match, and it was nothing special. But then Corbin came out, got in the middle of the match, and it was a big DQ, and it went nowhere, and it didn't solve anything. But it looks like Baron Corbin and Braun Strowman are going to have a feud now going forward. So
I want them to do something with Drew McIntyre. I feel like he needs to be pushed pretty.
The problem is they need to find that hook for him. Yeah. And they need to find some gimmick aspect that they can play off of. And just being the guy that Vince McMahon said was the future of wrestling isn't it. There's got to be something else. And I don't know what it is, but they've got to find that one thing about his personality that they could crank up to 11.
Well, they try to say he's the Scottish psychopath, but he's done nothing to show me that he's like a psychopath. It's the same thing with Ambrose and being like unhinged. It's like, no, he never really showed me anything that he was just like totally nuts and crazy. Like, they need to take, as you said, they need to take something and just crank it, because he's big. He's got the look that Vince loves. So
what they need to do is bring back a revival of the 3-man band. And then that's the skyrocket to the top.
Well, I mean, Jinder Mahal is a former WWE champion.
So maybe they can do a 5-man band, bring out Jinder Mahal's guys. They can do 6-man band and have Rhino added to it. They can have a great faction. They could just do Freebird rules with one of the tag belts, and you never know which of the 6 guys you're getting.
I hope that none of the officials of the company tune into this podcast. You're giving them terrible ideas.
All right. So anyway, our main event. It wasn't really was it ever really a match?
Seth Rollins picks who he's.
Yes. So they had. They introduced Seth Rollins, but Brock Lesnar came out instead. And Heyman talked about, what you expect Heyman to talk about. They said that Rollins was going to face Daniel Bryan because they didn't want to face, Brock Lesnar. And so Rollins comes out and gets in his face and he punches Brock Lesnar, and the two of them go back and forth. And at least they did the smart thing, which I got to give them a point of credit for, which they had Lesnar still playing off the midsection, playing off his belly, the injury.
He's actually selling that.
So he does the F5 and he gets up and he's grabbing himself, but then he does another F5 and he gets up and he's grabbing himself and he kind of starts to wander away, but then he goes back, picks him up, does another F5, comes back, does a 4th F5, and then finally, and then I guess after like the 3rd one, Seth Rollins was, crawling up the ropes. He's like, "Come back, you coward, come back." And so he comes back, gives him the other F5, and then they leave. So
that's how the show ends.
That's how the show ended. So again, it wasn't as bad as I expected, but 3 hours is still way too long.
Yeah.
And I was kind of sad that we didn't see more of the people who had such a big part, the NXT people who ran out during the Rumble. They didn't come out to have big matches here on Raw. to show that they have graduated. So the question now is, did they actually graduate to the main roster, or are they just mixing NXT in as a separate brand?
Yeah, not yet. I would assume usually that happens. Mania is when they want to like definitely bring those guys up. I feel like the dogs are going to start barking at me here in a second.
All right, so real quick, now we got to get through SmackDown. We had Becky Lynch. Let's see. Becky Lynch came out to the ring and talked about how she's going to take on Ronda Rousey. So that, of course, brought out Charlotte Flair. And again, I was looking. Was that thing gone on her? I didn't see it. I think it's gone.
I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look that up now.
But they had Charlotte Flair getting basically Charlotte did the same thing that Triple H did the night before. She said, I pushed you to this. I'm the one that drove you to fight to become this great champion, to take your place in the Rumble and to win. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have had that drive. So you're welcome. I'm glad I could do that for you. So Becky turns and punches her. And I swear that was probably the most legit punch I have seen. I think it was a mistake. I think she didn't mean to connect as hard and she just misjudged it. But that looked really tough. That looked really tough. And great. Especially the two of them. If those two decide that they want to get a little tough, get a little stiff in there. I'm
sure that's something that they probably discuss.
I'm sure the two of them could take it. Like I legit believe the two of them could get in a barroom fight with people and come out victorious. So anyway, let's see. Becky Lynch starts to leave, and then Charlotte comes out and jumps her, and then they brawl around the ring, and then they get pulled apart by the officials, and we go to commercial. We come back, and R-Truth comes out with Carmella, and he gets in the ring, and he says, I would have won, but Nia Jax came out, and she attacked me from behind. He said the line, at first I was rapping, and then I was napping. And I'm sure Vince peed himself laughing at that line.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
But he said they worked hard to get that match, and because he was thrown out, he went to Vince and complained, and so Vince agreed that he should get a title match tonight, so he's taking on the U.S. champion Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah.
So Nakamura comes out, and now he's got the reverse of the Michael Jackson Thriller outfit. Now it's all black with the red, so now he looks like Starfleet. He's got the leather Starfleet lounge suit on, but still zipped down the middle to show off his chest. So he comes out, they do the match, and it's fine. It's nothing all that special. It didn't look bad, but it didn't look great, whatever. It's just a match. But then Nakamura goes in for a submission move, and R-Truth just kind of rolls him up real quick. 1, 2, 3. But Nakamura kicks out right at the 3, and they get up and they start to keep fighting, and the ref calls for the bell, and they hear the bell, and they're like, what, really? Yeah. And they're like, yeah. They show the replay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. The ref hands him the belt. So then Rusev comes down, and Rusev says, I shouldn't have lost the belt. It deserves a better champion than Shinsuke Nakamura, so it sure deserves a better champion than you. So you and I need to have a match. So then he has a match with R-Truth, and again, R-Truth, quick roll up, 1, 2, 3. He retains. He gets to keep the championship, but then of course Nakamura and Rusev, I think they kick him around a little bit afterwards, and they laid him out, and they go backstage.
So R-Truth basically won the United States Championship in the most R-Truth way possible.
So Shinsuke Nakamura. So what we talked about earlier, the transitional champion, as the name of this podcast, transitional champion Shinsuke Nakamura is this transitional champion. He won the belt from Rusev just so he could lose it to R-Truth, because they didn't want R-Truth to beat Rusev, because somehow R-Truth beating Rusev is too high profile a loss for Rusev, but Nakamura can lose real quick, and then you have Rusev lose real quick, and it's no big deal. Yeah. So somehow in their mind, they just needed that transition to get the belt on R-Truth. Here's the thing. AEW, one of their big pushes, as you spoke of earlier, was tag teams. They want tag teams. And so WWE is thinking, well, we've got to push tag teams now. So they're doing the women's tag team thing. They're also putting together more men's tag teams and trying to build up the men's tag teams. And they think by putting the tag team championships on Miz and Shane, that gives it a higher profile. So that's why that happens. But then Rusev and Nakamura, they fight. Nakamura wins. Nakamura loses. Then the two team up to get revenge on the guy who beats them. And now they're a team. Because we see them backstage later on. They're talking to the Bullet Club.
Anderson and Gallows.
Anderson and Gallows, yeah. And so they come up with, together now, Rusev and Nakamura are a tag team to take on that tag team. So WWE, out of this whole mess of everything, was to get a tag team out of Rusev and Nakamura so they can build up the tag team division. So, and honestly, I mean, it is the United States Championship. It's not a high-profile one. It's probably of the four, big championships. It's the one at the bottom, Intercontinental, SmackDown, and Raw. So, or I'm sorry, WWE Championship and Universal Championship to fight the guys from Mars. Yeah. But so anyway, all of that is just to get that tag team to build up the tag team division.
Well, that's the thing. They're doing it now. They care about it now. 6 months, a year from now, it'll probably just go back to being nothing like it has been for however long.
It very well could be. So anyway, but still, and R-Truth is getting old. He probably only has a couple years left in him in the business. So this is probably going to be like his last run is with any sort of belt. I don't know if it's going to last very long, if he's going to be another transitional champion or not, but I get the feeling they'll probably let him have it for a while. They'll just kind of forget about it for a while until they have some new guy they want to push. They'll have him get the belt.
And then they want to try to make it. That's the problem with this company now. Like they get a bug in their ear. Let's make this important. And then down the road, they don't care about it anymore. Oh, wait, this is important. No, it's not.
Yeah, they forget about them until they're, oh, right, we need to do something.
Yeah.
They did this weird segment with Becky Lynch backstage where she's getting in a car and the interviewer's like, hey, you didn't get medical treatment. And she's like, I'm fine. I can take care of myself, whatever. She gets the car, drives off. And then they had the commentary go, wow, she must be hurt a lot more than she's letting on if she's not letting the medical professionals see her, because then the medical professionals probably won't let her wrestle. And then they move on to something else. So they're trying to tease that Becky Lynch has some sort of injury.
I guess to make it so when she beats Ronda, it's like, look at how tough she is.
I guess, maybe. Yeah,
hard to tell.
We got a zillion commercials for Paige's movie coming out.
Oh, great.
Which apparently, so this Paige Wrestling with My Family movie, I didn't realize it, but it was written and directed by Stephen Merchant, who's the good friend of Ricky Gervais that helps write like all these shows, does The Office, did An Idiot Abroad, does all that stuff. And apparently he's the one who was behind getting this movie put together, which is so bizarre. Right?
Yeah, it's like here's The Rock that's kind of putting his forefront into it. Like, let's get this rolling, and then
when you see the commercials, you see the commercials for it. You see The Rock in it, and then you see like the guys from Shaun of the Dead are both making appearances in there. I think there were a couple people from the British version of The Office that appeared in the scene. So they're actually, I don't know if maybe they're hoping that hey, we got this British guy, let's throw in a bunch of these British known actors. So all the nerds in the US will be like, hey, I recognize those guys. And then people in Britain will go, maybe we should watch this. Probably. There's the WWE UK thing. Yeah. So, synergy.
Well, Vince has always wanted to not be a wrestling company. He's always wanted to be something more. So we'll see how that goes.
They had Rey Mysterio. They had Vega. They had what's his name? The other three name guy who's not Alberto Del Rio. Andrade. Yeah, whatever. They did some fighting. I don't think it was ever actually a real match, but they did something to fight back with them so that they could show that they don't like each other and they're going to be building some sort of feud. We got this is where they did the thing where we got Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Andrews and Gallows as a setup for a tag match. We got Miz and Shane to come down, and we got Miz's dad out there. And again, we get to the whole thing. You were WWE champion, but who cares? Because now you've won the tag belts with Shane, so Dad can be proud. And there were, again, more chants in this show. There were tons of chants from the crowd. You always get that, when you get your big shows after a pay-per-view. We got, let's see, Shane announcing there's a 4-way number 1 contenders match. And they brought out a whole bunch of teams. Wait. I missed
New Day, the Bar, Heavy Machinery, and the Usos.
Is that what it was? Yeah. So that's where it was. So Usos, New Day, the Bar, Heavy Machinery. Okay. And I got to say this, like Heavy Machinery, they are one of those teams that they will never be top tier teams. Like they are there to be your journeyman, your mid-tier guys who will always get a shot but never win. They will always be there to be number 1 contenders to lose, but they are way more entertaining than I expected.
Yeah, they definitely are.
And considering one of the guys in Heavy Machinery is built like me, I'm actually kind of impressed. He's pulling off some Bam Bam Bigelow moves out there.
Well, I mean, what is it? What are their names? It's Otis and who's the other guy in the team? Dozovic.
No, Dozovic is his last name. It's Otis.
Oh, all right. So it's all right. Yeah. Okay.
Was it Tucker Knight? Is that who it is?
Yes. So Otis, he's in there with Big E, and like they're the same size, and Big E's like a big dude. So like that, when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, if Otis is in there with Big E, like obviously he might be a little bit smaller. So no, they're the exact same size. I'm curious to see where that's going to go. What they
and they even had Big E like beg off of Otis at one time, which was kind of weird. But so they did this elimination style instead of first pin. So you had teams being eliminated, they would roll out, and the other guys would continue on till eventually it came down to just the Usos and the Bar. And then the Usos did their wait, was it the Usos? Yeah, the Usos won, right?
Yeah.
Usos did their they did double super kick in order to win and get their spot in the Elimination Chamber tag match. So and Usos, I'm not the biggest fan of the Usos. There's something about when they first came out, I was fine. It was like, okay, cool. They're doing the gimmick, the Islanders, whatever. But then they turned heel, and so then they were trying to be like cocky street rapper thing, which what?
Now they're face again, right?
And then I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's weird the way that so now they're trying to be face, but they're still doing the street rapper gimmick thing. So
yeah. I don't know. I honestly prefer that over the Islander thing because the chanting and stuff, while it is part of their heritage, like the entrance part of it, just too long.
But I like the Islander. I mean, because if you look at WWE, I mean, professional wrestling, WWE is really the backbone that has kept professional wrestling alive. As much as you hate to say it, like professional wrestling is WWE, but WWE is really built on the backbone of the Islanders. Peter Maivia, even though they gave him a different gimmick, I mean, he was part of that family. You had, all the Islanders that came in, Haku and Afa,
Wild Samoans,
Wild
Head Shrinkers.
So again, it's like I like when they play back to that because it's a big historical part of the industry. Really, it's big. And then when they downplay it, I'm just like, it's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan had a promo. He came out and he wanted to know if the fans remembered who won at the Royal Rumble because he's going to have to fight somebody. But of course,
they said Becky.
Yeah, they start chanting for Becky, which I thought was funny. But he says that he's not just the champion, but he's also a champion for the planet. And this belt represents the corporate greed and the industrialization of farms. And like, I don't know.
How is he the heel? I'm sorry. How is he the heel?
That's definitely heel.
Yeah.
He's the guy. You go to a party and there's like 30 people and you walk in, you say hi, and you're talking to somebody and the person walks up and they're like, oh, hey, how you doing? Are you liking your drink there? I can't drink that one because I'm vegan, but
all right,
I hope you have fun here. Like, he's that guy.
Yeah, point taken. Point taken. I gotcha.
It's like, you want to go grab some lunch right now? Well, is that cruelty free, Starbucks? I mean, because I don't want to, if that cow was in a cage and they took it. In fact, we shouldn't even use milk. I want soy. I only want soy in mine because I don't want an animal to cry. Like, that's who he is right here, and that's totally here. Totally.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. So he throws away the belt because the belt represents the dead cow, and the cows have feelings and whatever.
Yeah.
Which, in all honesty, is actually him saying, your sacrifice was in vain, and now I will not respect the life that you gave up. I'm throwing you in the trash, and I'm bringing out this new.
Oh, well, didn't the crowd chant recycle?
Yeah, something like that. Which apparently that was an idea that they were going to do, is have him bring out one that looked like garbage.
Yeah.
Because it was all recycled, but then they thought it might look too much like the hardcore belt and whatever. Yeah. So they went with, instead, they bring out one where it's like the strap is made of hemp. Mm-hmm. And all of what would be the metal pieces are wood carvings.
Nice woodwork, by the way.
And instead of jewels, he's got like river Pebbles. Stones and
it looks cool. I think it's fun.
It looks like just a palette swapped version of the regular title.
I think it's cool.
It's obviously something that's not going to last. I'm guessing whenever he loses the title, whoever wins it is going to
go back.
Like hold him. Well, I'm guessing they'll have someone hold him down. Like somehow Brian will become face, or whatever. They'll take the belt from him, and then like they'll burn it in front of him and set it on fire, burn it, and then pull the regular one back out.
He'll probably still be a heel. They'll have the face do that.
I hope so. It'd be a face for me. So anyway, they did that whole thing, and it was dumb, and that was that. So they go to commercial. They come back. Mustafa Ali did make his appearance here. Jeff Hardy was standing in the ring. Samoa Joe came down to the ring. They had someone else come down to the ring.
Randy Orton.
Randy Orton came down to the ring. And Daniel Bryan. Styles. Did Daniel Bryan come back out? He came out at the end. Yeah, AJ Styles came out. They had the big brawl, whatever, and then Daniel Bryan comes out and says, "None of you guys deserve a shot at this belt. None of you are going to get a chance at it." And Triple H comes out and he says, "You're not defending the title against any one of these people." And of course, as soon as he says anyone, the whole crowd is like, "Oh!" And then he goes, "You're going to face all 5 of them at the Elimination Chamber," which is basically saying you don't have to defend this belt for a month.
Yeah.
Or 3 weeks or whatever.
I mean, good time off for him, but are we looking at our next transitional champion?
No, I think they'll probably let him keep it through WrestleMania.
Let him keep it? It makes sense. Honestly, he deserves it.
It's that whole dream of WrestleMania.
Yeah. But who do you think will kind of end up being his adversary at Mania off the top of your head? It's kind of tough to say right now, and that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, it is, because normally I would say AJ Styles, but with the chance of him leaving, that kind of makes me think they wouldn't want to put him there. I don't see Joe doing it. I don't see Mustafa Ali being big enough to do it. I don't want to see Randy Orton do it.
No.
So I'm almost wondering if maybe it's going to be Jeff Hardy, and that'll be the return of Matt.
It could be,
because Matt's been cleared. Because Matt was cleared a couple weeks ago to come back, and he hasn't made a reappearance. So,
yeah, they'll probably bring him back after Mania
or at Mania.
Yeah, well, they seem to nowadays like to just bring most people back the night after, because they're almost starting to look at it now as the Raw after Mania is kind of more important than Mania itself sometimes.
Oh, I've got I wasn't paying attention to the chat here. We got guys talking about my glasses. They love the glasses. They love the Tron references that the glasses bring out. If I pick the right meal, I get cookies and a toy. Hey, these are not from a Happy Meal. Come on now. These are nice. Also, a couple people, we got Fedmon was plugging your Beyond Retro podcast. You guys are 96 subs. If you get 100 subs, you get the account upgrade from YouTube.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, the custom URL and all whatnot, all that stuff comes along with it. Yeah.
So, actually right now we've got a bit.ly for ours because we can't get the custom URL. So it's, if you go to bit.ly/ capital T, capital C, capital P, lowercase oddcast. So it's TC podcast.
Okay.
Then you can find the channel. So
there we go.
That. going on there. But I mean, as far as where we're going for WrestleMania, we've got so many guys who are kind of in flux now, and so many people who are leaving, and all the stuff going on with AEW. It does bring a lot of stuff into question about where they're going to go with some of these people.
It's definitely intriguing, and hopefully it won't be boring.
So I will say this for this experiment. I did watch all of the Rumble. I watched all of Raw. I watched all of SmackDown. I was expecting to basically be on the verge of suicide right now, and I'm not. It hasn't been as terrible as I expected. So I'm still not as happy with the product as I was 20 years ago, of course.
Right.
But it's still not as terrible as I thought it would be. So with, looking forward to next, we've got Elimination Chamber and Fastlane, I think, are both coming before Mania.
Yeah.
So we got 2 pay-per-views before then. I'm not dreading it as much as I expected. So,
well, hey man, we still got a few weeks. Give it time. We'll see. We'll see how you feel at the beginning of March.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so we did go an hour and a half on what I hoped it would be an hour, but we did have a lot to talk about with the Rumble and everything. So hopefully, like I said, try to keep them around an hour. But if we go over, we have to go over it. You have work here in a little bit.
Yeah.
You're gonna be cutting it real close here.
I gotta get showered and get the sandwiches thrown in the lunchbox and get on the road.
You should shower when you wake up in the morning, so you don't have to do it right before you leave.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that because I was laying there. Although, I woke up.
You probably don't have negative 24 degrees outside like I do.
I think what it's supposed to feel like right now is about 5 degrees. I think tonight is when we're going to kind of get into the negative digits. But yeah, it's definitely not going to get as cold as it is there.
Yeah, we had negative 35 when I woke up this morning. So that was fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like I said, this is going to be a weekly podcast every Wednesday, running down Raw, SmackDown, whatever pay-per-view happens to be. If you want to subscribe, hit that bell so you can be notified. At the Transitional Champion podcast page, if you do the search on YouTube, you'll find it. We had to do this one through my personal account because I didn't realize, even though I set it up as a sub-channel of my own account, you still have to wait 24 hours after you verify before you can go live. So 3 o'clock this afternoon, we can go live. That doesn't help right now. But next week, we will be on the TCP channel. We will be going live. We're also going to be doing the thing where we strip out the audio, throwing up the audio podcast on Podbean and iTunes. So if you want to catch the audio, throw it on your Zune and take it with you when you go out around.
Yeah, that's a good reference right there.
Actually, I bring it up because someone just gave me a Zune.
All right.
I don't know if do I have it sitting right here. Someone gave me a Zune, the 30 gigabyte Zune. They gave it to me on Sunday at
and the it still works.
Pay-per-view. And well, they didn't have a charger, so they didn't know if it was going to work. But they were like, "You can just have it if you want it." And I was like, "Heck yeah, I want a Zune. Are you kidding me?" So I jump on Amazon. It's $6 for the charger. I charge it. I let it sit. Sure enough, it works. Had to do some weird stuff because it wanted to do updates, and of course the servers are offline, have not been around in a while. I don't know what I did with it. I thought it was sitting right here. I set it down somewhere, but yeah. So I do have a Zune now. Played with it last night. It's great. So that's going to be my fun piece of technology to play with for a while now. So Zune, kids, get on that bandwagon.
We're bringing it back.
We're bringing it back. That's right. We're taking it back. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see you next week, next Wednesday. Same time, different bat channel. Hope I see you all then. Thanks for
Ultimate watching. Warrior. I was thinking because he
Danny Spivey.